Right now, you might feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to do. You stay busy, you keep moving, you try to be productive, and yet there's a quiet feeling that something isn't right. Your days pass quickly, but they don't feel meaningful. You finish one task only to rush into the next. You reach one goal, but it doesn't feel as satisfying as you expected. And sometimes, without really knowing why, you feel tired, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. It's like your life is full, but something inside feels empty. And maybe you've started to wonder, is this really what life is supposed to feel like? But what if the problem isn't that you're doing too little? What if the real problem is that you're moving too fast? We live in a world that is obsessed with speed. Faster internet, faster delivery, faster results. Everything around us is designed to be quicker, more efficient, more instant. And over time, we begin to internalize that idea. We start believing that faster is always better. We want faster success, faster learning, faster growth, even faster happiness. We no longer ask, is this meaningful? We ask, how quickly can I get it? And slowly, without realizing it, speed becomes the way we measure our lives. The faster we move, the more successful we feel. The more we do, the more valuable we believe we are. But there's a hidden cost to this way of living, a cost that most of us don't notice until it's already affecting everything. Think about how daily life has changed. Eating. It used to be something we experienced, a moment to slow down, to taste, to connect. Now, it's often just another task, something we do quickly while checking our phones, while thinking about the next thing. We choose convenience over experience, speed over presence. And over time, we stop noticing what we're actually doing. Travel is the same. We don't enjoy the journey anymore. We just want to arrive. A delay feels like frustration. A traffic jam feels like wasted time. Because in our mind, every moment that doesn't move us forward feels like we're falling behind. Even learning has changed. We look for shortcuts. How can I master this faster? How can I skip the process? But deep down, we know that real understanding takes time. It requires patience, repetition, depth. Yet we resist it because we've been trained to move fast. At first, this fast-paced life feels powerful. It gives us a sense of control. We feel efficient, productive, ahead of others. But over time, something subtle begins to change. We stop enjoying what we do. Work becomes something to finish, not something to experience. Conversations become something to get through, not something to be present in. Even rest becomes something we try to optimize. How can I relax faster? And without realizing it, we turn our entire life into a checklist, one task after another, one goal after another, always moving forward, but never truly arriving. And the strange part is, even when we succeed, it doesn't feel as meaningful as we imagined. When everything becomes fast, life becomes shallow. We experience more, but feel less. We see more, but notice less. We do more, but remember less. It's like living on autopilot. You wake up, go through your routine, complete your tasks, and suddenly the day is over, and you barely remember how it felt. Not because nothing happened, but because you were never fully there. And maybe this is the real cost of living too fast. Not just stress, not just exhaustion, but the gradual loss of the ability to truly experience your own life. And when this way of living continues, it doesn't just affect how we experience life, it begins to affect how we feel, our energy, our mental health, even our relationships. Because a life that moves too fast eventually takes something from us. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, until one day we realise we've been running for so long that we don't even remember what it feels like to simply be. When life moves too fast for too long, the consequences don't appear immediately. They build up slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first, it just feels like being busy. Then it feels like being tired. And eventually, it becomes something deeper, something harder to explain. You wake up already feeling drained, even before the day begins. Tasks that used to feel simple now feel heavy. Things that used to excite you start to feel distant. And yet you keep going because stopping doesn't feel like an option. Somewhere along the way, we started to associate busyness with importance. The more packed your schedule is, the more valuable you appear. Saying I'm busy has become a way of saying I matter. And without realising it, we begin to chase that feeling. We fill our time, not because everything is meaningful, but because being still feels uncomfortable. Silence feels unfamiliar. Doing nothing feels wrong. So we keep adding more tasks, more goals, more pressure, until our lives become so full that there is no space left to actually live. This is where productivity quietly turns toxic. Productivity itself is not the problem. Creating, building, improving, these are all meaningful parts of life. But when productivity becomes the only measure of our worth, it changes everything. Rest starts to feel like guilt. Pausing feels like falling behind. And doing nothing feels like wasting time. So we push ourselves harder. We try to do more in less time. We try to become more efficient, more optimized, more productive. But in that process, we forget something important. We are not machines. And when we treat ourselves like machines, we begin to lose the very things that make us human: emotion, presence, meaning. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always come as a complete breakdown. Sometimes it's much quieter than that. You still show up, you still do your work, you still go through your routine. But inside, something feels off. You feel disconnected, unmotivated, emotionally flat. Things that once mattered to you no longer feel important. And the most dangerous part is you start to accept it as normal. You tell yourself, this is just how life is. But it's not. It's the result of a system that never allows you to slow down. In a fast-moving world, multitasking feels like a necessary skill. Doing multiple things at once makes us feel efficient, capable, in control. But in reality, multitasking often means dividing our attention until nothing gets our full focus. You eat while scrolling, you listen while thinking about something else, you work while checking notifications. And over time, your mind adapts to this pattern. Your attention becomes fragmented, your focus becomes weaker, and your ability to go deep slowly disappears. You become used to distraction, and silence starts to feel uncomfortable. But the impact goes beyond focus. It reaches into something even more important: our relationships. Because connection requires presence, and presence requires time. But in a life that is always rushing, both become rare. We sit together, but we're not really there. We talk, but we don't fully listen. We spend time with people, but our attention is somewhere else. And slowly, our relationships lose depth. We know more people, but feel connected to fewer. Conversations become shorter, emotions become lighter, and meaningful connection becomes harder to find. There is another force quietly driving this fast-paced life: consumerism. The idea that more is better, more success, more income, more things. And to have more, we must do more, work more, move faster, stay productive. It becomes a cycle. We work to earn, and we earn to spend. And in that cycle, the line between needs and wants begins to disappear. We don't just chase what we need, we chase what we desire, what we see others have, what we think will make us feel complete. But no matter how much we gain, it never feels like enough, because the pace never slows down. So we keep moving, faster, busier, more distracted, trying to keep up with a world that never stops. But deep inside, something feels off. A quiet sense of exhaustion, a feeling that life is slipping by too quickly to fully experience. And maybe the answer is not to push harder, not to move faster, but to step back, to pause, to reconsider the way we are living. Because sometimes the only way forward is to slow down. After all the pressure, the speed, the constant movement, it's natural to ask a simple question. Is there another way to live? A way that doesn't feel rushed? A way that doesn't require us to constantly chase, perform, and prove our worth? The answer is yes. And it begins with a quiet shift in perspective. A shift away from speed and toward awareness. This is where the idea of slow living begins. Not as a rejection of modern life, but as a response to it. Slow living is often misunderstood. It's not about doing everything slowly. It's not about avoiding ambition or giving up progress. It's about something much deeper. It's about choosing the right pace. The pace that allows you to fully experience what you're doing. To be present instead of distracted. To be intentional instead of reactive. Because the problem is not that we move fast, but that we move fast all the time, without pause, without reflection, without awareness. And over time, that imbalance begins to affect everything. Life has a natural rhythm, a balance between movement and stillness, between effort and rest, between doing and simply being. But in today's world, many of us have lost that rhythm. We are constantly on, constantly connected, constantly stimulated. And without realizing it, we forget how to slow down. We forget how to sit in silence without reaching for our phones. We forget how to be alone without feeling uncomfortable. Slow living is about returning to that rhythm, learning when to move forward and when to pause, when to push and when to breathe. At the heart of slow living is presence, the ability to be fully engaged in the moment you're in, not thinking about what comes next, not replaying what already happened, but being here, now. When you're having a conversation, you're truly listening. When you're eating, you actually taste the food. When you're resting, you allow yourself to rest without guilt. These moments may seem small, but they change everything. Because life is not made of big achievements alone. It is made of these small, often unnoticed moments. For a long time, we have measured life in numbers. How much we achieve, how fast we grow, how many things we accumulate. But slow living invites us to measure life differently. Not by quantity, but by quality. Not by how many experiences we have, but by how deeply we experience them. Not by how many people we know, but by how meaningful those relationships are. Because in the end, a life filled with speed is not the same as a life filled with meaning. The idea of slowing down can feel overwhelming at first. It might seem like something that requires a complete life change, but it doesn't. It starts with small decisions, choosing to focus on one task at a time instead of trying to do everything at once. Putting your phone away during a conversation, taking a walk without rushing to get somewhere, allowing yourself to rest without feeling like you need to earn it. These are simple changes, but over time they create space. Space to think, space to feel, space to actually live. One of the most powerful shifts in slow living is redefining what success means. Success is no longer just about speed or output or constant growth. It becomes about balance, about well-being, about meaning. It's about waking up and not feeling overwhelmed. It's about having time for the things that truly matter. It's about feeling present in your own life. Because what's the point of achieving everything if you never have the time to experience it? Maybe life was never meant to be a race, not something to finish as quickly as possible, but something to experience, to feel, to understand. The most meaningful moments are rarely the fastest ones. They are the ones we are fully present in, the ones we take the time to notice, to appreciate, to remember. So if life has been feeling overwhelming, if everything feels rushed and nothing feels fully meaningful, maybe it's not because you're falling behind. Maybe you've just been moving too fast. And maybe it's time to slow down. Not to escape life, but to finally experience it. Because life is not a race to be completed. It is a moment to be lived, fully, deeply, one moment at a time. If this message resonates with you, take a moment today to slow down, even just a little. And if you want more content like this, consider subscribing.